Guys, well, welcome and thank you for being here. It's our pleasure. Thank you for the invitation. I wanted to start with a general question about continuous learning. We are in a transforming world and changes are happening very fast. That is permeated the keynote of APIX since the beginning. This is a very relevant topic for us and everyone who's involved. How do we, keep our jobs in the next 6 months, if things evolve so fast? Or I'd like you to talk a little bit about and also tapping into the API and services issue. How has your journey been for, in the case of Allura, which is, how do you supply this content? How has this journey been, and how is it been to build a team in a company with a culture, and what mechanisms do you use to drive this in the day-to-day of people in your company? Stalita, if you'd like to start. Hi guys, good afternoon. Thank you for you who stayed here at lunchtime with no Big Macs. We need to talk to Domingos about it. Well, it's really cool to be here to exchange, to learn, and I think this goes hand in hand with the topic. We were talking about it, before this panel. All the previous agendas were talking about how things have changed, and they are changing. So this has become a commodity. The learning is something that is constant and will become even more constant in the lives of everyone in all sectors and also in companies as institutions and organizations. So making a quick analogy, I remember not long ago we could see CIOs and IT directors and executives guiding their teams to follow best practices. Today, you don't actually have any best practice for anything. If you follow a best practice, you're late already. You've done something that a lot of people have done to the point of someone has been able to write it, and that's probably out of date. So you're talking about intimate relationship with the client, protagonism, agile, building your own story. So learning is something that comes out of it. It's part of your day-to-day. So we only generate change and create relevant things if we try new things or try to apply benefits or improvement over a pain that you felt. So there has to be, I believe, in companies, a space for trust. I think this is the role of leaders to create an environment where people can apply small MVPs, can create things, because if you don't make mistakes if you don't try anything, and from these experiences you get learning, creation, innovation, and that's where you get, that's how companies gain share. People who make a difference, they end up eating the largest slice. But you shouldn't copy, you should learn. This is a learning. As professionals, we have to reinvent our roles all the time. So there is an individual search. I think today there's a lot of platforms available like Lura, for instance. I think companies have included that in their cultures, like Magazine Luiza Labs. We have agendas that are reoccurring, and they're part of our culture where people exchange knowledge. So there's BEV, which is a fortnightly event where you can present technical or playful content. We have strategic positioning along the year where the heads of company talk to field personnel and the stores about digital transformation in a way that works for them. So when you are changing the entire ecosystem of the shops, we had to show them how that could make their lives easier. We have been learning which are the desires of our clients, and a way of learning is listening and getting feedback, which is constant. So I think learning doesn't only come through the formal pathways, but from experimenting and creating an environment where this experimenting is fertile and people are not punished when they make mistakes. I think you can make quick and fast and cheap mistakes. You can't make the same mistakes over and over, but I think the most protagonistic companies, they take more advantage of their talent. So we have, normally so much effort to hire, train and talented people that if you get stuck or if we lock them, we tight them, we're not making the most of their potential, and then they will grow in their company, they'll learn, they'll evolve, the company will evolve. And when a professional has found the fertile ground to learn, they'll tend to want to stay, which is is actually just as important as salary, perhaps even more. If a professional is evolving, they normally want to stay. So it's a win-win. The company gains, the professional gains because they have knowledge, they create baggage. Company, the clients learn and evolve, the country evolves. I think it's a virtual cycle, and our role is to create a fertile environment that empowers and encourages people to try and test. Very well, Talita. Paulo, how does Allura get into this continuous learning ecosystem? I want to tap into two things that Talita said. First, the fact that we work with teams that we're very concerned about. If you work with IT, you don't know when you're gonna lose a developer from your team. So these capacity of people to feel that they're mastering something and better their roles is one of the most important factors comparing to salary and other things. But when the person feels that they're evolving in their expertise field, is better than when they actually just handing out features faster. But when they feel that they are mastering new technologies, APIs, this is how they feel better and understanding what's below. I know that, I am at a management level. I've been there for a while, and we are concerned about learning innovation. And every day we get a new developer with the crazy idea, crazy technology. They want to do things, and we want to hold both ends. We can't tighten down. But if you just let them loose and let everyone who brings the new technology that they read on Reddit or on a forum, if you allow, we get into a very complicated situation. I believe that goes hand in hand with another point that Halita mentioned at the beginning, which is the plurality of tools and technologies. I met Clever and Sensedia at a trip that we took to the Silicon Valley with young people. I go to the Silicon Valley to look at innovation, so I was very skeptical, and I think he was too. I thought, it's just a bunch of young people trying to create startups, but it was actually really fruitful, and it was really bold from Sensedia, and even the topic. The event topic, I thought they were crazy, to focus an event only around API. But if you look at technology, like large technology, there's nothing too large that dominates the market. If you talk about implementing technologies, not API as a concept, but think of Microsoft, Oracle, Java, none of them dominate large parts of the market, absolutely, and they work for everything. I bet at your companies you have 6 different technologies in 6 different projects, and tomorrow you'll have a next one. Fortunately or unfortunately, this is a fact. Technologies have gained niches and preferences, so you can't really fight that. But API and exposing your services, we have in our companies 2 monoliths that are huge, and we open their APIs, even though they're monoliths. Microservice, service, monolith, doesn't matter. If you expose that to other companies, to marketplace, you won't be able to run away from that. So some of these ideas you won't be able to run away from. You have to make your entire company go towards this direction. There's even someone told me that Fred Trajano, CEO from Magazine Luiza, in one of his last letters to investors, he wrote, and it was really nice, when competition opens stores, we open APIs. Wasn't something like that? Yeah, exactly. Obviously, I think he wants to scare the competition, but it's true. We want to, our systems today, we need to connect systems. So, we create this plumbing and we connect things. It's less focused on improving, the monolith. We want to expand. So I think this is a challenge, for us to captivate people and work on our internal people, because the technologies have been pulverized. People do whatever, in their preferences. One of engineering directors said, I prefer Java, but someone has Python. So people, each person does in their own way. So it's a complicated scenario to hire, to maintain, and to have people evolving in their careers. So tapping into something you just said about new technologies coming up all the time. If you have a group of people that normally they're more accommodated and they prefer to work with what they know, that's natural. But there's a group of people, especially, people who love new technologies, specifically for Talita. How How can you deal? You have to allow room for experimentation and mistakes, but new things come up all the time. How do you how do you do it in Magazine Louisa? Because there's a risk, new technologies sometimes not mature enough, and there's a few things that need to be addressed. How do you do? You go full on to you use new technology, or you take it easy and test it out? Well, that's a good question because I'll add something to the topic. Something we mustn't forget that APIs and technologies they expose functionalities of a business that is actually being set up, is running, and people have expectations over it. So you can't risk, breaking things. You can't lose your clients and etc. But we also have to continue scaling out, implementing businesses in a fast pace. We can't stop all the time to try out new things and then deal, with that complexity. So we adopt strategies. We, for instance, try to use technology or a paradigm or approach to solve a specific problem that language or paradigm can solve well. So we won't just try something because we read on a blog or someone thought it was cool and wants to use it. We have three things that are part of our day-to-day. We have a large team of developers. So for people to have a fast onboard, we have templates of formalized languages, and we also have instrumentation mechanisms that teams create an environment and they can actually produce a CI. So we have languages and technologies that have been set up in this structure. So we have a range of formal technologies that cover most things we do, but that is also part of the training of new people. But we don't want to prevent people from testing and learning. So there are a few things that are part of our culture. We have people at Magazine Lab that are tech leads. These are experienced people who support tribes and squads. And if a developer wants to try out a new technology, they will talk to tech lead. They talk about what is the best applicability of that particular technology. If that really makes sense in a small context, in a smaller risk context, perhaps the application has a smaller life cycle. So perhaps there's more freedom. Or if you want to do something for machine learning or big data, there's something specific for that wasn't formalized before because you haven't explored that area of knowledge. Let's formalize it. And the tribe leads, who are the technical people of the teams, they also take care of people and the deliverables. They will set standards for that, and that is integrated in our technology network. At the beginning of the labs, we were loser when doing it. We were smaller. We had only senior people. Now the lab has 800 people divided into 3 units, and we take care of all innovations for the magazines and all market projects and everything that's running. So in a way, we had to balance out. What we noticed is that when we drive discussion and someone brings new languages, we study, and they've been studying it, they gain awareness, and that's something that we might include in our range of technologies. Sometimes we're talking about graphical. Let's look where we can apply. Can we, in fact, get any benefit from it? So we are cautious, but we also don't want to be stuck. So it's a matter of common sense, balanced culture. I think it's necessary to have a list of formalized technologies and templates to generate productivity, but we can't tie people down, otherwise you'll be outdated. And people get dismotivated if you're not allowed to innovate or try. It's a non-virtuous cycle. Paulo, sometimes we make available, specifically today on the internet, there's a lot of content, a lot of things are available. You don't even have to go to the Silicon Valley to learn. Despite that being a very differentiated experience, how do you engage people so that they consume this type of content and they learn? Online, sometimes you not always have control of what people have actually following. Are they following the purpose or a schedule? Even companies, sometimes they make online platforms available and their employees don't engage with that. Do you have any tips of, from your understanding? Well, the learning issue, especially when the online media is involved, there's a question, well, on YouTube I can find it. Well, there's infinite, endless content, really, but if the content is not structured and there isn't a clear path, these things become very hard. I think the main point for learning within a company in terms of content or training, traditional training, if you're not able to make people who are being developed to be able to see that that can have a direct application to their work, the engagement, unless it's blockchain or a fashionable topic, I think the engagement will be low. Well, I work in education. What do we bet on? And some other people abroad do that. That there'll be a blend. Well, who works with technology here or has worked? How did you learn? Who has given you, the ropes? It's probably a micro influencer, your cousin, your uncle, your brother who worked with technology before, and you thought, Fabio, I wanted to learn with microservices and APIs. I am a fan of you. I like you. I want to work at Sensedia one day. What do I learn? So this learning structure doesn't come from a company that says, oh, look, for you to learn API or a university or Ivy League, whatever, doesn't matter. If you learn API, you need this, that, then a course, then the training, then you need to practice this or that. But no, if it was just a mentor or a digitalized mentor or Fabio, I've learned this and that, this is important. That you found in this course you can skip, but there's actually a video on YouTube that you can practice on, and you should grab the person by the hand and say, look, follow this personalized plan of study, which I consider is very important for you to do, which is, if there's two people who work at Magalu, for instance, it's something like, look, I'm a fan of Thiago Cototto, I want to be as good as him. What did you do to learn Java? Well, I studied this and that, or this people talk about, but I think it's BS. So take that away, put something else on, something that stimulates. If you don't have your motivation to study and apply, as long as the content is good. Well, I mean, good content is commodity. There's also bad content, but good content is commodity. So if you don't have the right link or objective with the content, and if you don't do that with people you really like, saying, look, what do you want for your career? What do you need to improve in your company? Or to get a better salary or to move to another company? Or is that what you need? So look, can you see value in that? And perhaps talk to someone you like. So these are small triggers that seem silly, but without them, only self-reaching people, everyone knows a cousin who's learned everything by themselves, even without YouTube. Well, it's 1 in a million, 1 in 1,000. So for the vast majority, including myself, I need these motivations from a person, from a social contact, to be able to go through a whole learning process and to see that I can actually apply that in practical terms. Do you believe that, thinking of companies, what is the role of leadership for this stimulus? Is this through example, or can you create a culture where everyone can be proactive to go after knowledge and develop themselves based on what the company is actually supplying? Well, people from companies that study a lot of education, they say that many companies out there are forcing people to make some time for studying, regardless of a course that the company has bought. But it's like you're going to spend some time to improve what you do, like being in a course or an MVP of something. So you have to spend some time to improve your skills. So there is this bet, but certainly a lot of people are looking at leadership. If your leader has a habit to look down on any study or any time spent on improving, it'll be very hard to try to implement any learning strategies. But the vast minority will not be looking at this kind of strategy. You're talking about leadership and high executive to drive and to participate. And also, you said it is really important. It's key. Can you create a culture where people engage? I think so. Yes, I mentioned that at the beginning. You have to create an environment where people have courage to try. But I think that's a good tip. If the company and the leader, if they know very well what they're going, what they had it, and you are getting, changing things in your status quo, then you get new elements. And it's important role of the leader is to communicate very well where they're heading. So, for instance, we had a few stages. We went through the digitalization of the shops, of the company as well. So it's the role of the board to support that process and to communicate. Look, we are going to be crossing that river. So what elements do we need? We needed naturally to learn about mobile ecosystem, how to work with mobile, how to develop mobile, rules of business, applications that were in the back end had somehow to supply information. So we created an exposure of APIs as a strategy so that the information went to mobile. And then when we were moving to omni-channel, multi-channel, and to adequate these experiences and working with events or a marketplace platform to expose services, we were taking another step to create diagnosing APIs. We needed to learn about it. So the stimulus from the leader was showing where we were going from a high level so that we could go after the elements to make it feasible. And some other times we needed to bring content to materialize, to have the foot on the ground for the executives as well. So I remember using a video which was called 5 minutes economy API. In 5 minutes you can explain the economy of API for a company, expose rule of business, monetizing. So which stones these rule breaks so you can be faster. Fred wrote today a letter because we are opening API. He really understands the value of that. So the organization learned, the entire organization, there was an important role of him to provoke and to show where we were headed, what the vision was, the dream. So we find elements to get there from our area leaders, our CTO, to open opportunities to read and learn, and also to find early adopters that would trigger the rest, and also create a culture where these people can influence others even though they don't have a leadership role. So in the culture we can add the culture of elements of one teaches the other, and that scales. You have less leaders than followers. So if one person learns from another, you gain in scale and have a benefit from actually creating a purpose so that people expose themselves so they can talk in public. It helps with their personal development, their career development, and then you leave legacy. So everyone who teaches in a way becomes a reference and a leader. Throughout my career, I noticed that the main leaders and the most influential, motivating leaders, they contributed for people to learn. So they serve first, they teach, they help changing the status quo, and then they become a leader. Sometimes, even though they don't have a formal role, I think the role of a leader is to show the way, to repeat, because everything that's new, you have to repeat until there's no doubt. Sometimes identify who will be the propellers, the people who will help creating a movement, and implement elements of the culture so that people have the courage to expose themselves. Sometimes, have shy people. Now our team is very respectful, very careful, but it's very cute. But sometimes people think, am I invading? Am I across the line? Am I going to be seen as someone who wants to show off? So we actually need to tell people that this is desirable. I'm going to post on social networks saying, if I post something, people think I'm show off, that kind of thing. So we need to create an environment where people feel comfortable doing that, and the leader has to be an example. The leader who learns and evolves. When the team sees that in the last, trajectory of this guy, he's been moving, learning. It creates two things: a desire of learning and evolving, and a positive relationship with vulnerability, showing that everyone has their fragile points, and you need to expose yourself to evolve. And what Paulo has said very well, people stay where they feel that they can actually evolve, where they just reach the ceiling and the last person knows it all, so they're not forced to evolve. So I think the role of the leader is to be an example, to show evolution, create channels, and show the way, and also to highlight people who have more energy to pull the rest. and drag the rest along. Guys, I'm gonna open for questions, 1 or 2 questions. Please raise your hand if you want to ask a question. I think there's people with microphones around. I think there's one question there. Well, I have one here in the corner. Hi, here. Where? Here. How are you? My question actually is, everything you said about learning and how to drive that within a company, you came from a physical organization where perhaps Alura has been born digital, but Kylo had a more physical structure. How was the transformation of the culture within your companies to accept this, to accept MVP, accept the digital transformation, and how to drive that within the companies? Can I start? It's a very good question. Well, first, we know this fear. Imagine a company that was born physical, and then when they move to the digital world. So that store, which is to cater to a client, the products was theirs, and then when you create an omni-channel, the e-commerce competes in a way for the stock and clients. So the back office areas and administration and the purchase, the marketing areas, they all had acquired expertise throughout their careers that would give them legitimacy for that role. So in a way, in the first moment can be seen as a threat. So there's a role of the board. It's very important to communicate that is the path to be taken. And I think we're lucky to have a very tuned leadership, something that happened overseas. Companies that didn't integrate in experiences, they became irrelevant, and a lot of them have closed their doors. So we need to communicate the physical stores in a direct way. Things like, if you don't act as a point for a client that bought online to pick up your product, your fixed cost that you have, which is larger, will render you unfeasible. So a lot of people buying on e-commerce, and then they come to a physical store and they end up buying something else. So there's a way of showing why this is necessary, and really this is the way forward, and also showing the benefits and establishing milestones. So what do you want for the first year? What do you want for the second year? We've designed this clear strategy, all the steps for people to be ready to adapt and to adjust and be ready. So I think when we communicate a plan and people have certainties based on results, and they see that the company grows and it's bringing more clients, and we can work with indicators, and then they see that they are moving towards a media, their work is being more recognized, then this is a sign that things are working, it was good for everyone. I think that creates that virtuous cycle. It's not an easy path. When you talk about digital transformation, people think that we're talking about technology. That is all you do. It's go to the cloud, but it's all about processes and people. So not only people, but the human aspect. Removing fear. So practical processes. You're not looking at a pipeline model, which is a continuous pipeline where you have the stick being handed from sector to sector, and you're moving to a platform where everything is more organic. And because of that, you get teams that are organized in squads, and because you have squads with specific missions, you need a micro application that will only look at a specific context, and API will give support to transporting this communication. So that's when the digital transformation comes from the courage of adopting, the desire of adopting, thinking of a clear objective, and knowing that you have to move the organization towards this, and you can't just replace everyone and rehire people, because you lose your motivation of the business, the culture, and all the other aspects that you have achieved. So you can't do like McDonald's, you just rebuild your kitchen. You can't only do digital, you have to still do what you used to do. It's an evolution. So I think there's a lot to do with communication and taking care of people and not giving up with and facing obstacles. I think this is an example of learning. It's an institutional learning, not only an individual learning process. I think Tarita is giving you lesson lecture. People come with this digital transformation challenge, and the first thing they do is let's implement Squad. Scrum, APIs, and microservices, and then we'll have our digital transformation. And these do not work. Obviously, these buzzwords are involved in this transformation, but they're not even digital sometimes. It's a business transformation. But if you don't have it very well, aimed, we want a new model of business, of marketplace or online. If that's not clear, why are we going to, try to squash down that throat squads? That'll become a joke, there's squads in our company, haha, people laugh, because there's no reason for having that. It could be better without. People who understand about squads, and Imbert and Fatala from Magazine Luiza, they say everyone's going to ask them about it, but they're going to say, well, squad is not, you don't just put it anywhere. API, you leave this event and say everyone has moved to API because this is what we need. If you don't have, if you don't understand the economy of API to understand what objectives in terms of business and processes of people, the chance of that actually going sour, it's great. So I see that. You see buzzwords, people call us, I want to have a course, I want to study squads. Why? Because the competition is using squad. But what's your pain? I think that's exactly what you said. Well, Paulo said something very well. We should have like a learning structure, like a purpose. Why do you go to cloud? When we moved to cloud, one of the questions we asked internally was, we're going to cloud to get more time to market or reduce costs? Our reason was time to market, because we started on e-commerce and we've adopted for a period a redundancy. We had two places at the beginning, and then we started to move everything else and reducing costs, and we optimized our business. But the main gain at the moment was to launch things fast without having to take 30 days to buy a server to run. So that's where we base ourselves. When we go to APIs, we had to break functionalities that were in the system, because a lot of teams were doing new businesses and we couldn't fit that into the pipeline. So it was still an internal API strategy. They weren't moving outside, but they solved our problems at the time. When we broke the teams, we did it because we had so many projects, so many products to deliver, so many things that were necessary for us to be relevant, that we couldn't run 5 products in a year. So how can you do many things at the same time when you have a trained team that's naturally... And actually the strategy is to make these projects parallel. What do you do? A great office to manage portfolio of 200 projects? No, you can't. If you have autonomous teams, this organizational squad structure will help them knowing what their mission is, how they become multidisciplinary, and having product people there. So the APIs that are exposed start to emerge from this need. So that from and where, well, the strategy have to be created for clear objectives, like Paulo said, to address these issues. If the company doesn't have a pain and they adopt a system, they might actually make things worse.
So that she knew how to do it, it's going to be worse, because it's going to transform the modus operandi of something that was already good. So it's better not to do it. You have to be the why. Well, we could stay here the whole day talking about this subject. It's very interesting, but it's time to finish. I thank you so much. People, they are going to be available to you outside, so round of applause.